All names, photographs, and persons depicted on Fugitive Watch are presumed to be innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law.
Hey, here we are, all three of us. Scott, say hi.
We are. Hey,
And,
hi, Mark.
Oh,
How you doing this evening?
Bring your audio back up here. Try it again. Say hi.
Hi, Mark. How you doing? How's my
I'm doing
audio?
good. Your audio sounds good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fine, Mark. How are you?
Okay, actually, it should probably record the show next time. That'd be good. We're doing good. We got actually, guys, right now we are on Facebook. Apparently, yeah, we should be on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you can see us, let us know. But all right, so all but three of you,
But
all
I
three
think
of us are together. Zuckerberg what?
I think Zuckerberg only lets it go to a few people, not the 400,000 people that want to see it.
Yeah, well,
he
how that
hides
works. You know how that works.
Unless we pay him.
Yes, you pay him. Yes.
Well, I know how it works.
We got a good signal. It's on. We're on Facebook too, and the audio is on Facebook, working good too. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So busy week. Scott, they caught that guy today, the United Healthcare guy, Jake Gyllenhaal lookalike.
Yeah,
What's
they
going
did.
on? Tell us about it. What happened?
Yeah, Steve and I were talking about it earlier. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. I said, "Wow, man, they pulled out all the stops for this guy. Man, look how fast they caught him using social media, using TV. What a great idea, huh? To broadcast bad guys' pictures out to like TVs and social media. I think it's a really great idea. But I know Steve and I were saying how fast they caught this guy.
Yeah.
And they spent money on everything from drones to divers, you name it. It's amazing if we could go after all the murderers like that. It'd be pretty cool.
Hey, Noreen, thanks for joining us. Say hi to Noreen, guys. She's on Facebook.
Hi, Noreen.
Hi, Noreen.
V's on Facebook. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate it.
Welcome aboard.
Yep.
Yeah, Mark, it's amazing. That NYPD. I love NYPD. It's a fantastic organization, if not one of the best police organizations in the world. But the notoriety that you begs to question why this particular homicide got all the stops pulled. It reminds me of Natalie Holloway, the poor girl that was murdered in Aruba. Everybody in America knew that poor young lady's name, but he did kill another woman in Peru.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I bet you a paycheck that you could ask 10 different people and nobody knows what that poor lady's name was. That girl's name was Stephanie Ramirez, and she was also a victim of the same guy who killed Natalie Holloway.
Yeah,
I hope that. Go ahead, Mark.
I saw a lot of posts within a day or so, and a lot of people were like, it was a weird commenting time on social media. Still is.
Yeah, I mean, they're making this guy out to be a folk hero.
Yeah, I get the issues. I get the issues. But murder's murder. I mean, it's not like you just stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and get away with it, right? Oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I just did.
Mark, you can.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm just amazed because of how many. There are so many shootings and murders, what have you, going on in that city, that if they could put that type of resources to it, how many people we could save from being victims. I think it'd be great. I mean, I understand this guy was a rich, prominent individual, and so they're going to, give him the equal amount of time to find out who was killed. Well, okay, no, they're going to do everything they can to find out who his killer is. And I'm happy they caught the guy.
Yeah.
And Steve and I were talking earlier about that. People are out there. I mean, they're making T-shirts about this guy. They're treating him like he's Robin Hood or something.
Are you talking about the victim or the suspect?
They're talking about the suspect. They're making a lot of people are making him into a hero. But I think what it does is I know that. I understand that. A lot of people are making him into a hero. It's more about the issue of what's going on, you know, when in the healthcare world, you know, and how hard it is for some people to get healthcare, and would have things denied. You know, this isn't an insurance claim like you had something stolen from you. This is like, oh my God, you're going to stop paying for my anesthesiologist. You know, that's an issue. So I think as sad as this has come about, I think this issue is going to continue to be discussed a little bit more prominently now, especially in light of the incoming administration and everything that's going to happen after January 20th. So it'll be interesting where this goes. You know.
But even before we know what the motive was for killing this poor man, they turn him into a folk hero, and we don't even know what the motive was for killing him. You know,
right? Well, I think wasn't there some writings on the bullets on the casings?
Excuse me?
Wasn't some writings on the casings? Is that all true?
Yeah,
that's what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I must have missed. I don't know what I don't know what that means. That deny, dispose, and or whatever those three words were that he put on the cases. I don't even know what that signifies.
Somebody said that's what they use when they deny people claims who, for example, somebody needs health care for cancer or something, and they like, well, we're just not gonna we're gonna deny you that, or we're gonna deny. I don't know. I'm speaking on guesses, just watching all the chatter out there. I understand why people are really upset about the healthcare system for obvious reasons.
That's what I was saying. I was watching a lot of guys on YouTube, the stuff that I follow, were watching about the technique the guy used and how he, you know, guys were talking about why the gun jam because of the homemade silencer and all this stuff like that. It just came out from every angle, you know, and then you got the whole how the investigation is going to go down, you know, and how it happened just a few blocks from where all these police were sitting there, where the Christmas tree was, Rockefeller Center, where all the police presence was and stuff like that. It was an amazing story to see the whole thing unfold. But like you guys said, a lot more of this stuff could be solved with the same type of intensity.
Well, you know, too. Also, Mark Scott.
So I propose a 24-hour Fugitive Watch channel.
I tried that. I asked for that 30 years ago in our original proposal. I asked for a 24-hour.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna start streaming live 24/7.
They kicked me and Steve out, but then they started a knitting channel. They started a knitting channel, Mark.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We will knit live and talk about fugitives.
But Mark, Scott, listen, you know, it all wound up ending this tragic story of this murder of this man in New York City ended like we talked about last on the last show with a not a traffic stop this time where it was a simple traffic stop that caught Timothy McVeigh, the bomber of the federal building in Oklahoma City. Yeah. This was a see something, say something. An employee at a McDonald's who saw a suspicious person and took the time and effort and did the right thing, like we asked citizens to do: pick up the phone, call 911. Don't rationalize it away and say, hey, listen, I think the police need to come out and look and talk to this guy. He's suspicious.
Right.
And bingo. They make the arrest. They identify. They find the ID that he used to check into the hostel, and they find a ghost. Allegedly, I should say. Let me back this up. They allegedly find an ID that he used at the hostel that he stayed at for 10 days before the murder, and they find him allegedly in possession of a ghost gun.
Right.
Yeah.
All from a regular citizen who called 911 to report a suspicious person.
I don't know. They haven't reported. I'm wondering if is that the same gun that he committed the murder with, or allegedly committed the murder? He would have hung on to that thing. But I mean, once I saw those photos with the mask off, I go, that's it. And Steve and I and Mark, you remember, I mean, how many people have we posted and we get these good photos and we go, oh, we still going to find out who this person is. When Steve and I started, our photos we used to use, they were terrible. We would have to use these old grainy photos and pictures that we could find, and we were taking pictures from the jailhouse.
I'm gonna venture to say I bet you some people knew who it was and they just didn't say anything. I think maybe they were just like, I think it's gonna be him. I think it's gonna be him, but they weren't.
They were hesitant to call.
Yeah, hesitant to call, or maybe.
Do you think the reward helped? You think the reward helped?
I didn't even follow.
No,
apparently.
The girl who called the girl who called, the employee who called, I should say, I don't even know if it was a male or female. The employee that called just called in the everyday garden variety suspicious person called to 911. This person is suspicious. And for whatever reason, the employee thought it was suspicious, made the 911 call. Mark, you don't know how many times in my career that I've taken burglary reports, and I go next door, I talk to the neighbors, and they watch the burglary, and I go, well, why didn't you call? Well, I didn't know, I didn't, they just were hesitant to make the call, or they saw a suspicious car that eventually wound up being the car that was used in a robbery, parked around the corner with guys with
in their defense, Steve. In their defense, in the way things are currently going, some people are actually robbed and they're told just to call it in. Yeah, we're not going to send anybody. We're going to talk about that story.
We're going to talk about Vallejo. We're going to talk about Vallejo PD in a minute, aren't we?
But at least they did their part. Okay, now it's in the hands of the police department. If the police department doesn't have the resources, that's a whole different issue. But it's so frustrating that people now are afraid to call 911 and report a suspicious car in their neighborhood because of this Karen phenomenon going on. And so much crime could be prevented if citizens were not hesitant to just call in a suspicious person, suspicious car.
But also with that, Steve, how many pictures of people have we shown over the years? I mean, we've caught thousands of people, and over the years, how many times have we had somebody call us and say, I know who that guy is who did that burglary. I know who that is that stole that package. And we call the police departments and they don't have the resources. They flat out tell us, we don't have the resources to work it. And we're like,
you're right. That's a whole different issue. You're right. That's a different issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe a lot of times people, they hear that, or they've been a product of that, or have seen that and think,
but they, you know what? That's not their problem. If they've done their part, if they, as a police officer, when I was a police officer, I would say make the call, and you've done your part, And if we fail on our end, that's our failure.
Yeah.
We actually got a tip. Remember, I got a tip one night. I was working, and a tip came in across the radio, and I go, oh, I recognize that name. And I looked and I go, holy cow, that guy's on our TV show. This was like 20 something years ago.
My show.
And I ended up jumping on the call, and I went over and I arrested the guy, and the guy looked at me like, he's like, how did you know I was here? Because he didn't know, but he was living with his ex. His ex is the one she was the one that called, man. She thought, hey man, I saw him on TV. Come get him out of my house.
Oh, we've had, there are cracks in the system. There are failures. Mark, I had a man wanted for murder who had been at large. He had fled the country and was tired of running. He had been at large for like 10 years. And he called our hotline. I talked to him, and he wanted to surrender. And I told him, go to the nearest consulate and tell them, you're wanted for murder and you want to surrender. And they tell him to leave, make it call this phone or make an appointment, because it took me a month. It took me a month to get this guy arrested.
department, tried to turn himself in. Then he called us, and you and I made arrangements to have him picked up because he knows nobody would come.
The police department and sheriff's department were pretty much across the street from one another, and he was going to the lobby about trying to surrender, and they were just, we had to intervene and get somebody to arrest him.
Are you having audio trouble, Mark?
You can hear me now, right?
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm talking to the producer here on the back end here, and I tapped the mic off the turn off. But we had a little audio glitch there a little bit, but we're all good. All right, let's thanks guys for tuning in, watching us. We are getting this figured out, but I do propose a 24-hour Fugitive Watch channel, and we can make that happen on YouTube.
24-hour channel, just fugitives, wanted people. That's all.
Just wanted people over and over again.
Here's a picture. This is what he's wanted for. Here's a picture. That's what made us. That's how we got on the map. That's how we caught all those people. Shotgun effect, we called it.
All right, let's see what we got here. Let's go with we want to start in Vallejo?
Well, might as well, since we brought that up, and that's near and dear to everybody's heart right now.
It really kind of is to me. Yeah. Let's go check out. So we're here in Vallejo. Vallejo residents feel captive due to crime, asking Governor Newsom for CHP deployment. Let's watch the video.
Here we go again, Mark. Are there enough of those brown suiters available? We're gonna run out of them.
Tan suits, right? Yeah. Let's watch the video. Let's watch the video, and then we'll see what's up here.
Calls for help tonight from people fed up with crime in Vallejo. The last straw, the high-profile robbery of a band from London that we showed you earlier this week. Now, people who live in Vallejo are now pushing for the governor to send in the CHP. NBC Barry's Jordi Hernandez has more.
Scott, you hearing
in 2024, in a democratic state, 5th largest economy in the world.
Let me check this. But it is
city
playing
can be held captive by criminals, and nobody's doing anything about it, and nobody listens, and nobody responds. I mean, this is the United States. This is not acceptable.
No,
That's how many people in Vallejo are feeling as they say criminals continue to target the city without fear.
Police! Guys, somebody ring the police!
On Tuesday, a band from London stopped for coffee off the freeway in Vallejo and got robbed at gunpoint. When they called police, they were told to file an online report.
Welcome to Vallejo. You come from the UK, you're a prominent band. This happens to you, and that's the response you get from the city that you were robbed in. Not a good look.
Vallejo native Paula Conley says residents are fed up. She started an online petition urging the governor to send in the CHP.
What we want is for the governor to help us. He's helped Oakland. He sent officers to Oakland. It's made a huge improvement in so many of their issues.
That would be great, really. I think Vallejo needs a lot of help. A lot of help.
Rachel Lennon says she's adding her signature to the petition. On Wednesday, an out-of-town friend visiting for a wedding had his car stolen as he ate dinner at a local restaurant.
One Camaro. That's
works hard to have nice things, and
that's going to happen anywhere.
He just went to go eat, and he came out and it's gone.
Lennon says she no longer feels safe in the city she grew up in, and she says she won't be inviting over friends or family from out of town anymore.
I hear a lot of robbing. Even when you're just driving and parked at a stoplight, you get robbed. Like, what the heck?
And we deserve to be safe in our homes.
Conley says given Vallejo's severely understaffed police force, it's time for the state to step in. She says the lawlessness needs to stop.
Nobody's willing to help a city that...
Be better if I could hear it.
Okay. All right. Well, the lawlessness needs to stop is what they said there at the end. Sorry, you guys can't hear it. You two can't hear it, but the viewers at home can hear it.
I don't see I don't see Scott anymore, Mark, on mine.
No, I'm here.
Go ahead, guys.
I'm here.
Go ahead and because I can't hear you. I lost the audio here. You guys are good. Keep talking.
No, I said I don't see Scott anymore. I think he's logged out.
No, I'm here. I see you.
Scott, I'm going to let you lead this because I can't hear you guys now. So, but you guys are still recording, so go ahead.
Okay, so
yeah, I don't think Scott is not not. I don't see him on the screen anymore, Mark.
All right, you guys there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
So yeah, sometimes
I
I can't hear you guys in, but you guys are recording fine. Sorry guys, sorry about the technical difficulties here, but I lose audio sometimes in this thing. I don't know what's up with it.
So on this Vallejo thing, Mark, we've talked about this before. They are not the first city to call for help. And it was funny because
Scott's missing,
I watched.
Mark.
Can Steve not hear me, Mark?
Steve, can you hear us? Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. So on this Vallejo story, I was watching this Vallejo story today, and then back to back, I'm watching this other story on how Oakland, who has used, like they said in the video, has used this technique to help squash crime, and now Oakland's talking about cutting hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever from their budget, and who's the first thing they want to cut?
You see that?
I don't know. What's he doing?
Scott is missing. I don't know. I don't know if he can't. Maybe he can't hear me.
Okay. Steve, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Are you? Scott was talking. What? You have something to say?
Yeah, I can't hear Scott. I can't see Scott on my screen.
Okay, but okay, he's there though. He's here, Steve. Don't worry about it. Just you can't hear him at all.
No, sir.
Well, guys, sorry, we're having technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on. But go ahead, Scott. Continue.
That was my point, was talking about how Oakland now is talking about cutting their fire and police. And the thing is that we've already seen this movie play out before, and it's not going to end well for them. And now you have another city over here begging for help because they don't have enough people to stop the crime. And that was a crying shame, that band from London that was there, and they get robbed, I believe at gunpoint, and they call and they don't even have anybody to send out.
He's like, how did you know who was here? No, that wasn't good at all. Well, I think we're having some technical difficulties, so I don't think we're going to continue. Just because Steve can't hear us at all, or Steve can't hear Scott. So I have a solution, but it can't happen right now. So
well, I guess you and I could keep going, or we can move on to the next story. Or
Steve, you can hear me. You just can't hear Scott.
Right. I can hear you. I cannot hear Scott. I cannot see Scott.
Okay. I think Scott's coming through on my end. I guess Steve lost it on his end on the link. So, you know what, Steve? You could try to log back in. You could try to log back in, Steve. Log out and log back in. Try that way.
I'll do that. I'll do that right now.
Thanks.
So, Mark, talk about it from the CHP angle. Well, Steve's logging out, logging in.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like you said. You could roll 5 to 6 patrol cars in Vallejo, just like we do in Oakland. The problem is it's not free; it's overtime. So, the city budget or the state's going to have to kick in the money to pay for all those officers and the overtime and the resources.
Right.
It's not cheap, but it is very, very effective. So these cities, how they're paying for all this, that's the issue. Is the state going to pick this up? Is the city going to be able to pick it up? Are they going to be able to generate revenue from their tax base to pay for this type of police protection? Right.
They're not.
So as we get into this issue, let's remember, let's use San Mateo County as an example. As police services became more and more expensive, cities like San Carlos, Half Moon Bay, Pacifica just eventually dropped their police forces. And and then the sheriff's department picked up those contracts. And what they did is they absorbed so if it costs $24 million a year to run a police department, the sheriff can come in and do it for $20 million a year, let's just say. And I'm using this as an example because the sheriff is going to use their records situation they already have set up. They're going to use their dispatch situation they already set up. A lot of the services that a police department would have to fill on the administrative side, the sheriff can already absorb or beef up based on those what resources they already have. So maybe a sheriff that would come in And, Contra Costa, Sheriff, is that Contra Costa, Vallejo, or is that Solano?
That's Solano County.
Solano. Yeah, Steve.
Vallejo is in Solano County.
We can hear you. We just can't see you now. But
I can see him.
Yeah, you can see him there, but we don't see him on screen. But I'll handle that. But yeah, guys, go ahead and talk. I mean, that's just something that could happen where you can.
Well, Steve's explained this to me in the past because he's worked for a sheriff's department, he's worked for a city, he's worked for BART, he's worked for everything. And it's really comes down to, Steve's always explained, it's like civic pride. These cities don't want to give that up because they want to have their own police department servicing their own community, because they just don't feel that a sheriff's department is going to represent their city the way their own officers in their city would represent them. But again, it's expensive to own to run a police department. It's a huge expense.
Yes, it is. And maybe with the laws changing, if as chaotic as everything's been the last couple months, all three of us were very pro repealing the existing laws and making it tougher on people who commit crime. And the reality is the state needs more jails. It needs more prisons. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but the threats need to be separated from society. And I'm a pretty middle of the road guy. And, but that's at some point, all these release programs are just not working, and there has to be consequences. And I even heard Jerry Brown talk about this on a thing I was watching the other day. And he was saying, you gotta enforce misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are what? Prison up to a year, right? State, county jail up to a year. Misdemeanors need to be enforced.
But they treat misdemeanors like
nothing.
They're infractions.
That's right. But misdemeanors need to be enforced. You start with the misdemeanors. County jail up to 1 year. It costs a lot of money to run a jail. It costs a lot of money to house a prisoner and the programs and stuff like that. But what is the cost on the other end of it?
Well, so I get it. I get it. If somebody goes out and does shoplift, they get caught. First time offense. I get it. You don't want to throw them in jail. You give them a chance, but they get caught again. And back when Steve and I were enforcing the law, the third time was basically what we call the 666. That was a felony. That turned into a felony. You get caught going in there, and right now these guys are going in and cleaning off the shelves, and they're just treating it like it's an infraction. Yeah. This retail theft has just gotten so out of control, and the bottom line is because they don't want to jail anybody.
Right. And I know the state was under a federal order to empty its prisons based on the situation years ago, and Jerry Brown had to empty those jails. But a lot of these experiments just have failed, and now we're all feeling, the whole world is, though. I was just reading about Alaska, as conservative as it is, has a homeless and a crime problem in the streets of Anchorage, and businesses are closing down. And
I was cold.
And I was in Texas at Lubbock. I was in Texas Auto Theft Conference. They have all the same issues. They have the same issues where the prosecutors are not going after a lot of the theft crimes. They're focusing on the domestic stuff and the violent stuff. And the theft crimes are letting them out. I had an auto theft case where I had a guy dead to rights in a stolen car, VIN switched, hiding it out, $40,000 car, all totally disguised. They arrested him. He had some domestic thing, is what they ended up prosecuting him on. The car thing was just maybe a reason to put handcuffs on him. But you know what? He should be charged with that car thing too. And a lot of prosecutors will go ahead and they will, instead of going to jury or going forward with the case, they will drop some of those other charges to get a settlement or get a
but that's common.
Agreement.
That's it. Yeah. Those plea bargains are common, and they'll get rid of.
Is it right though? Is it right though? Maybe you should just let a jury decide on that stuff. It's hard to get a jury together.
I don't know how many cases I've been on where I've gone in and they tell me they're going to drop like half the charges, because the guy's going to plead out to these lesser crimes and get maybe 2 years when he could have got like 7 years, but they don't want to house him for 7 years. So they'll give him 2 years and a year of it probation, and then credit for time served. And he goes to local jail for 3 or 6 months. He's back out doing the same thing that I arrested him for already.
Yeah.
Mark, on the other end too, there's the issue with staffing, and I'm certain, I don't know for a fact, but I'm certain that Vallejo Police Department is understaffed, as many police departments are understaffed, and you have all these police agencies. There's only a finite number of people available, and they're all chasing the same nickel. There's only so many people that are interested in becoming police officers or sheriff's deputies or highway patrol officers, and you need correctional officers, probation officers. You're looking at officers to work in the jails.
Yeah.
There's only so many people, and so they need to start looking at how to better consolidate, because they're not making it. You wind up stealing from other agencies. Well, you haven't solved the problem. You get an officer who laterals from one agency to another agency. Well, there's still an empty spot. You just move that empty spot from here to over there. And
so I remember
we were famous for that. We were famous for that on our department, taking the cream of the crop from all the other departments and leaving them bare. And so what?
Then they realized the pension and the deal wasn't a good deal, and they should have, and they should have just stayed with the other agency that they were at. I remember you guys signed a poach, and then they all go, "Why did I do that?" I go, "Yeah, why did you do that? Why did you go to San Jose PD?"
Yeah, in this Vallejo case, the lady, the story you ran, Mark, the lady she sets as an example is that rock band from the UK was robbed at gunpoint. And they say that when they called 911, they were told, well, just go online and report it online, And
well, okay. So let's get into Vallejo PD real quick. I know a couple officers there back in the day. They're okay.
Oh no, I'm not.
Oh, I will, because remember the whole case with the kidnapping
so
a couple years ago.
Let me finish my thought then.
Yeah.
That was not a good look, and she says it's not a good look, that these people get robbed and they're told to call 911, but we don't know what the backstory is. They may the PD might have been already tied up on a homicide case. Sure. All the officers are, there's just not people. There's just no officers to send because they're short staffed and they're all tied up on maybe a hostage situation or some other kind of situation. And I don't know if that's a common occurrence where they tell people who get robbed at gunpoint to call report online. But I do know that Vallejo, along with a lot of other agencies, are just short staffed.
It would be nice to hear the 911 tapes on the actual calls that came in. Now, I think if there was another incident going on, that the investigative reporters probably would have found those incidents so they could say, well, at this time, the cops are busy on this. I do know a lot of, depending on who picks up the phone, different agencies, you're just going to get a different answer, especially in the bigger, more busier areas. And Vallejo is quite busy. But you remember the kidnapping case where they didn't believe the young lady and her boyfriend?
Oh, yeah.
And rightfully so in some ways. I remember watching that documentary and I was listening to their story and I was like a little skeptical. But what Vallejo made the mistake was they right away came out and said, this is BS. And they shouldn't have said that. They should have waited 3 or 4 weeks, do the investigation. But instead they just blew it off. And it turns out they were wrong. Alameda Sheriff had to figure this whole thing out. And it turned out the girl was kidnapped. And there was a guy, breaking all these buildings. It was kind of that bro police community within Vallejo. These guys and some FBI agent thought they were all pretty hot stuff. And they kind of blew off these 2 young people because they apparently had been drugged. And the interviews were a little weird. But given the circumstances of being drugged and everything else, it's understandable. I'm going to give you an example of the difference of how to handle it. And this is where San Jose PD did something excellent. Remember our friend Ana Ayala, the Wendy's finger chili lady?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Chili finger.
So we were all working when that happened. I was at RADF when that happened. And I had a lot of friends, ex-wife and friends at San Jose PD at that time. And we were all, wow, that's weird. And
You got to tell people what the story is.
Well, if you got, yeah. So the Wendy's here on Monterey, a woman named Ana Ayala went in there and having her lunch, and then claimed that she found a finger in a bowl of chili. Wendy's, right? It was Wendy's, right? Yeah.
Right. It was Wendy's,
and she made this claim that there was a finger in a bowl of chili, and it blew up all over nationally, all over the news around 2003, 4, something like that. And I mean, it was all over the place. Wow, there's a finger in a bowl of chili. Well, right away, and I knew a detective at the time working on the case, right away they were skeptical of this whole thing. But you know what San Jose PD did? They said nothing. They just, for 2 or 3 weeks, they said nothing. We're investigating it. We're investigating it. Unlike Vallejo, within 2 to 3 days of this girl being kidnapped, they said, oh, this is BS. They went all over the media and said it was BS. San Jose PD knew from like day 1 or 2 that it was probably BS, but they didn't say anything. They did their work. They did their due diligence. And
but that's common with that department. They hold their cards close. They don't.
Well, and that's the way you have to do it. That's the way you have to do it, right?
Because they want to make sure they put out good information.
I'm sorry, unlike these bros at Vallejo, they're like, oh, yeah, these people are just full of, they're making it up. There's something weird going on. They shouldn't have done that. They should have just held the cards close.
Mark, was Vallejo one of the cities that filed bankruptcy? What back there do you remember that, Steve?
I do not remember.
Remember all those cities that were filing bankruptcy?
Yeah, I think they were one of the cities that filed bankruptcy, right? The officers lost their pensions and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably didn't help make people want to go work there. So, that would be tough to go work for a police department where you know that the city's already in dire straits like that.
Yeah, when you had the technical difficulties, I think you were talking about cities hesitant to contract with a sheriff's department or another larger agency to do their policing for them. But if I was a city manager, that would be the first thing I would do is think about contracting. And I would be very unpopular with the chief of police because
and then you have some very power type city council people and mayors that want to have control of their officers and the agenda they want enforced downtown and whatever. I mean, my own family's involved in that stuff.
But I tell you what, I worked for an agency that contracted with a very influential Silicon Valley city, and that the sheriff's department did everything everything that city manager asked for, he got,
Sure.
And they had they were a wealthy city, and I'm not going to say what city it was, but they had plenty of money, and
you didn't have to.
The rest of the taxpayers in the county were subsidizing that city because that city was only paying for the deputies' patrol time, on an hourly basis, and the city wasn't paying for the communications, the training, the court time, the detective time, all the other time that law enforcement has to put the hiring, the recruiting, the sick leave,
pensions,
the vacation, the pension, all that. They were just paying a straight hourly rate for the patrol deputies, getting one hell of a bargain. And if the city manager called the captain and said, hey, I need a deputy to do this. Oh yeah, here's the deputy. Or what, this deputy, we really don't care for this deputy. Can you send us another? Can you? He winds up and working the jail the next day.
Meanwhile,
he winds up working the jail the next day, and they got a brand new deputy working. And we're going to have the president's going to visit our community college, so we need 75 deputies. Well, here we got 75 deputies on a helicopter, and and the next day we don't need them anymore. A small agency can't do that. They can't hire 75 more officers the next day.
Right. They have to be like Santa Clara, and they have to hire out a bunch of other agencies to handle the Super Bowl and stuff, right? Or they have to bring on all these reserves, which is what they do, But again, that's money. You got the 49ers and that whole industry paying for that. You got the town you're talking about on the west side of the valley there. They got money and big Silicon Valley companies there. But let me ask you something, Steve. So when they when they needed that super deputy out, or they needed someone to replace, or they needed help, who was patrolling Burbank or the east side of San Jose at those times, right?
No, they're on their own.
They're on their own,
Yep.
right? Because they're not represented. It's like San Martin. It's like San Martin in the South Valley. You know, it doesn't have great. It's got, I think, what do you call it? Not a councilman, a supervisor. I don't know what they call the county people. But you know, it doesn't have great representation. You know.
Well, like for example, if that guy had, you know, got from United Health got gunned down out there, Burbank or whatever, you know, he may not have got the attention. You know,
coming out of with the pink poodle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I used to work patrol for the highway patrol, and we used to cover Burbank, the traffic stuff. And guys would drink. You can't drink there, so they would go across the street at the bar across the street or liquor store, and they would get drunk. And then they would get hit by cars crossing Bascom on the way back to the strip club. So then I'd have to take an accident with a guy got hit by a car because he's drunk going back to the strip club. You know, and then,
yeah, and then you got to call his wife and tell her that.
That's another issue.
Yeah, Burbank, part of San Jose back in the day, and Castro Valley and Alameda County and East Los Angeles were like the three largest unincorporated areas, urban areas that sheriff's departments had to patrol, and that the highway patrol actually assigned beat units to. But San Jose eventually wound up annexing quite a bit of that Burbank area. But it used to be like, I think number 2 or number 3 next to Castro Valley in East Los Angeles for unincorporated urban areas.
Hey, I just wanted to say hi real quick to Tamika. She's on Facebook commenting, and Tamika, I know you got a lot going on there, and just everyone, if you can check out your comment when you can. But we appreciate you watching, Tamika. Thank you very much. So, I mean, Vallejo, anyway, San Jose solved their case. I remember Ayala's family dancing around protesting, saying she was innocent, you know, but it's sure, you know, eventually they found out that she had got the finger off somebody who lost it in an industrial accident or something like that, right? But anyway, my point was that San Jose held their cards close, did their investigation, and then came out at the appropriate time, made their arrest. Vallejo jumped the gun, made all these, you know, comments that were, again, okay to be suspicious, but hold on, you don't have to go so fast. But I think they felt their time was being wasted, and it's like, actually, it wasn't. You know, it was a good case. The other thing I remember one time when I was at the working at task force in San Mateo County, before Millbrae now is patrolled by the San Mateo Sheriff's Department again, but it was one of those departments that had a police department, but their detectives were retired annuitants from like San Francisco PD and other agencies. So all the patrol people were active Millbrae police officers. This is around 2009, 2010. But if you went to talk to a detective, they were retirees doing the detective work, at least at the desk positions, like case filings and stuff like that. And they were, you know, they were getting a fee, a yearly fee or a monthly fee for doing that. But all their benefits and stuff were not handled by Millbrae because they were getting benefits from their retirements, right?
Right.
You know,
Smart.
So that was the way Millbrae was saving money. But eventually, I think Millbrae, Half Moon Bay, Pacifica, San Carlos, all dropped their police departments, and the sheriff for San Mateo now covers all those cities. So you have right away those cities they can get rid of their dispatch centers, they can get rid of their records centers, you know, any other little duties that now the sheriff can absorb.
You're not only talking about that, your dispatch, your administration, but you're also talking about vehicles. You know, the cost of the vehicles, mechanics, buy the cars,
those
maintain
costs
them.
are still there, just being absorbed by another agency that already has all that infrastructure.
They're being absorbed by the county taxpayer, by the rest of the county.
So.
Well, okay, I think.
When's it going to start? Other than Cupertino, who else in Santa Clara? What other cities are having the sheriff contract with them?
Montessorino and Saratoga and Cupertino and Los Altos Hills were the 4 cities that Santa Clara County used to contract with when I was working with them.
Right. It'd be interesting how this plays out. But again, I'm hoping now with the
we also had jurisdiction with Stanford. Stanford University is all unincorporated.
Yeah, that's also sheriff guys.
And way before I got on board, the sheriff had made a deal with Stanford University and allowed them to he deputized their private security, because Stanford University is a private it's not a state university, it's a private university, and he deputized their security department. And so we know, the sheriff doesn't patrol that any longer and leaves it to them. So they're technically peace officers when they're on duty. Their badges say deputy sheriff, actually.
But a lot of them I personally know, and a lot of them are retired deputy sheriffs from Santa Clara County and other agencies that work there now. And then some have been there their whole career, so.
The other thing too is what people, in case they don't understand, like when a department when they come in and they absorb a city like that, they need officers, they need more manpower. And a lot of times the guys in those agencies that they're absorbing end up being hired by the sheriff's department or those other agencies. And if they're not up to snuff, then they probably lose their jobs or get cut. But they need people, and plus the fact that these guys know that community. So it's they have to hire people.
Yeah, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is like one of the pioneers of contract cities. They have like 30 some odd contract cities in Los Angeles County that they patrol. And when they take over cities, like I believe they took over Compton and Inglewood, they part of the deal is that they'll absorb the officers, and many times some of the officers wind up getting pay raises because they become they get into a higher paid position.
Right. And if you're going to look at so the third largest police agency in the United States is the LAPD, and then I want to say, so the second largest in California is LASO, and then the California Highway Patrol. So LAPD is running around 8,900 officers now. It used to be way more than that, but LASO is the second. LASO is huge.
Yeah, technically, Mark, I believe the Department of Corrections, California Department of Corrections, is the largest agency. I think there's they're up in like 30,000 officers.
Oh yeah, we could talk about that, whether they think you're peace officers or not. There's a whole nother debate right there.
Right. But yeah, they're a major.
I'm talking about patrol, right? I'm talking about we need more corrections officers, we need more jailers, all that.
Right.
I believe so. I believe we do. I'm
right.
not trying to, I just believe that the threat should be separated. Until they can play nice. But I think
they're completely different jobs. I worked both. I walked the tiers. I worked the jails, and I've been a couple police officers.
So sworn deputies at LASO, they actually might be bigger. They have 18,000 employees. Sworn deputies right now, it says 9,900.
Wow.
I was going to guess
LASD is the fourth largest local police agency in the country after LAPD, Chicago PD, and NYPD. So I knew it was like right below LAPD, and then for California, so LAPD, LASD, and then the CHP.
Mark, I think they have one of the largest bus systems in the country
probably.
Too, for busing prisoners around.
That's right. Well, okay. Thanks that was a short little topic, right? I think we got our audio and stuff working. Thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it. We got a couple more things to talk about here. Let's go over to where are we at here, Scott?
Another New York case?
The judge dismisses the manslaughter charge.
Oh, go ahead, Scott. Steve, go ahead.
I think we're going to talk about the manslaughter charge. It was dismissed.
Can you see it on your screen there?
Yes.
Okay. So judge dismisses manslaughter charge against Subway Good Samaritan Daniel Penny. I'm not even familiar with this. What's going on?
Mark, apparently what happened is this individual you see in the CNN box there, he is riding the subway system, from what I understand, and this mentally ill passenger gets on board and begins yelling threats and is acting bizarrely, and saying he's going to kill people, using profanity and basically terrorizing the people on the subway car. And this individual here, he takes the guy down into a chokehold and holds him down on the ground, and is restraining him so he doesn't hurt anybody on the subway car. And the suspect dies. So the district attorney, in my opinion, unjustly charges the Good Samaritan with manslaughter. And so he goes to trial, and you have two opposing crowds of people demonstrating outside. Some saying that that this guy murdered this mentally ill man on the train, and the other people who are supporting him saying that he's being unjustly prosecuted for manslaughter. And eventually the trial ends. It goes to the jury, and the jury hangs up on manslaughter, tells the judge we cannot come to a decision on the manslaughter. So the judge tells the jury, well, go back and consider a lesser charge of negligent homicide, and which is still carrying prison time. And the jury comes back and just says not guilty.
Since when does a judge tell the jury to go back? Obviously, they did consider that. They would have considered the lesser crime, and they would have considered the whole thing. Why would the judge do that? That to me doesn't sound right. That they put this guy through that. If they already hung on that, they obviously did consider that.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of.
In my opinion, he was putting his thumb on the scale of justice by doing that. Yeah,
exactly.
If they hung up, it should have either been a hung jury, or they could have found him not guilty. But
but for a judge to say go back in there and do it. In fact, he sent him home. Go home for the weekend and think about it, and then come back. Where this guy's like sitting there going, "Hey, well, wait a minute, man." And again, I watched the video. I saw what happened. And I know that the mayor in New York, he's saying he'll accept what the jury put out there, but it's pretty clear that he's not happy with the findings. But then he turns around and says, oh, but we have a mental illness problem in this city, and that's the problem. Well, if that's the problem, then why are you hanging this guy out to dry when you know that it's a mental illness problem? You just admitted that, but yet at the same time, you're making it pretty clear. I watched his interview, making it pretty clear he wasn't too happy with the outcome of the trial. That he wanted.
What's Perry's background? Penny's background?
He is a former United States Marine. From his background, I understand.
But no type of criminal history at all, or any sort of issues, anything like that.
Are we talking about the suspect or the person on trial, or the guy that died?
Good Samaritan, Daniel Penny.
The Good Samaritan. Yeah, he was a no criminal background. He was a former Marine.
Yeah, doing what he needs to do, and someone
Mark,
died.
He was being a Good Samaritan, and what is it? What messages does that send to people who are looking out for the best interests of society? It really puts a chilling effect. To me, I'm going, well, I don't want to get involved if I'm going to get charged with homicide, because this idiot dies, and I'm trying to protect somebody.
I've ridden on those subways. They're some dangerous people down there, and the thing is just based on who we are, your training and experience, and you see something like that go down, you feel obligated to jump in. Like the same thing we were talking today, Steve, about the guys on the airplane. These guys get out of control on the airplane. And if you go and you try to take the guy down that's out of control on the airplane, and the guy ends up dying from asphyxiation or because he's in bad shape.
Scott, you have this poor guy who's trying to restrain a mentally ill guy who's freaking out on the subway, and the guy unfortunately dies. And then you have the other guy, a mentally ill, disturbed guy, freaking out on the airplane, and a Good Samaritan does the exact same thing, but the guy doesn't die. And this guy is a hero, and this guy gets charged with manslaughter.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense at all.
I think the DA made a huge mistake doing that. I totally disagree with that.
No, I think it's in my opinion, it's again acquiescing to a lynch mob.
That's exactly what they were doing.
Just one guy saying I listen clear.
Okay.
Let's having our producer check on YouTube for us.
Okay.
Well, okay. So we got one more to talk about here. We'll go over to Long Beach.
I sent you the videos on that because that was
Long Beach releases video footage of officers fatally shooting Brandon Boyd. And what I'll do here is I will play this. We'll keep the audio off. And this one's going to be a bit of an issue, probably. This might get you guys demonetized. So just so you know. But go ahead, Scott. Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Well, apparently they go to a call of this guy with a gun. They have this guy. They're if you watch the whole video, they spend a long time. In fact, it's daylight. And it goes to nighttime, and they're telling the guy, "Look, just show me what's in your hands. Just show me what's in your hands." And the guy's obviously hiding something behind him, and he doesn't want to show him. It's really hard to tell by this video. I know I remade some videos for you, but they're not on there. But later in the video, you'll see where they finally they try to shoot a flashbang, distract them. I guess they thought they're going to run up and try to arrest them. And the guy pulls a gun out from behind him, and you can clearly see it. There's all kinds of camera angles, and there's a camera angle from inside the complex where he's sitting, and you could see the gun sitting behind him. He pulls that gun out and starts shooting at the officer and hit the officer, I believe, in the arm. Yeah. And they end up shooting and killing him. And people are, again, right here, you'll see that's where the flashbang goes off. And people are again, like, well, they shot him, why did they have to shoot him? It's like, gee, I mean, there's only so much. Yeah, again, maybe there's some mental illness issues here. I don't know what it is, but I know one thing, the guy's got a gun and these officers want to go home to their families. Yeah. And they can't just walk away. Like Steve and I have always said, we've said this. Just because you can't negotiate with the guy, you can't get him to do you'll see the guns right behind him. You can't get him to do what you want him to do. We don't, as police officers, you don't have the right to just say, well, you know what? I don't want to force a confrontation. The guy's not going along with the program. Let's pack it in and go home. You can't.
No.
Right? We've all been in that position. You can't.
No. The world's not fair, first of all. And some situations are just not going to go well. And a lot of people have, I remember an idiot once told me, why don't you just shoot the stick out of his hand? And, this is an idiot that claims to love the police. But it's like, that's hard to do when the guy's coming at you with the stick. And he's trolling it around like a lightsaber. But hey, Scott, move a little bit over to your right there a little bit. There you go. We want to see your pretty face. All Scott's fans. But it's not easy work. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed my job very much for all those years. But it's not easy, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you have to make quick decisions. And I believe in body cameras. I think they're a great tool. At least they can answer a lot of questions, So
no, and in this case, it wasn't just body cameras. They had camera systems inside this complex, and where you can clearly see the guy pull reach behind him and grab the gun, and he pulls right out and starts shooting. I mean, I don't see what you expect. What did they think the officer was going to do? You know, he's going to return fire.
Yeah, Mark, there's very few jobs. I tell people in conversations before, I've told people there's very few jobs other than law enforcement and maybe in the firefighters. There's very few jobs that you are expected to give your life. You know, in certain situations, you're expected to sacrifice your life, and because you're not expected to run away. You know, because the fires, you're not expected to retreat, and that means you sacrifice your life. You sacrifice your life.
So the district attorney was recalled. She had her last day at the office in Alameda County the other day. Pamela Price, right? That's her name.
That's right.
I finished my auto theft career in the Oakland area before she was the DA. I still talk to a lot of friends that work up there, and they're very happy that she's gone. But this perception has started with Gascon in San Francisco, and then you had
he's gone too.
He's gone. But then you had the guy. What was the guy in San Francisco? Before Brooke Jenkins, who everyone loves, or at least the cops like her a lot. Chelsea Bodine. Is that?
Chelsea Bodine. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you had this big wave of these very progressive district attorneys trying all these, and then Pamela Price came in a lot after the George Floyd stuff, almost on a vengeance to fix law enforcement. And you know what? To be honest with you, there are some deputies and police officers that needed to be adjusted in Alameda County. I'll be the first to know. I know one or two. But that doesn't mean you stop prosecuting people. You start following up on cases. And it was good to see the victims of crime come up there and really ask for a change. I'm not sure what the numbers say. I'm not sure if crime's up or down in Alameda County. I hear, more progressive radio stations will say, well, the crime stats are somewhat similar to what they were and stuff like that. It's like, look, it's perception. And a lot of times you want to know that people are committing crimes. They're going to jail. They're being prosecuted. I just hope things are going to get better over the next few years. We try to be as compassionate as we can, but when it comes down to it, most people just want the police officers to do their job, keep them safe. They want to be able to walk out, go to the movies, not have their car stolen, not be attacked, not be, pull into the gas station. And those things are going to happen, but it's happened to the point where it's gotten so ridiculous and happening so much in different communities where, and the cops are too busy or maybe they're not responding or whatever the situation may be. But I know the cops want to know that if they're going to arrest somebody, that the district attorney is going to have their back and move forward with these cases. And that also the district attorneys will say, well, the cops need to write good reports and have all the basics down to get a prosecution. And they're right. I do like the idea, though, how a lot of departments are relying more on the body cameras to be the filing report. I mean, that's a trend coming where, hey, man, my camera's on from the moment I got the call. You let it play out. Someone's going to transcribe it. That's submitted in evidence. The DA's office can review it, and they can file their charges based on the cameras.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the officers.
That's the new thing.
Officers are so busy for them to go back and have to write a 8-page report or 4-page report, 3-page report, whatever it is, and just kind of recap a lot of the stuff that's right there. Maybe that's the job of someone, a civilian, to take that footage and translate it into a report that the officer then can sign off on. But we need to keep the officers in the field.
Good way to save money.
We need to keep the officers in the field. All right. So all these agencies had all these desk jobs for officers and stuff like that. A lot of civilians can do these jobs. Evidence, computers, training records, stuff like that. A lot of these jobs can be handled by civilians, sworn civilians, and then court. And then you need to get your patrol officers, your police officers that are post-certified that, cost the state a lot of money to keep certified. They need to be in the streets, in the field, working, saving the residents money and doing what they're supposed to be doing as police officers. And if you don't like doing that, well, just become a police officer 10, 20 years and go do something else. But to sit behind a desk for your whole career doing some, other job after you did, 5 or 6 years on patrol, I'm not cool with that. I never was. I know,
you know
a
it
lot
takes
of.
Mark,
I understand
takes,
officers get hurt and you need some desk time and maternity leaves and stuff like that. I get that. There's nothing wrong with that. But we all know different officers that have just, once they get a desk position, they never go back to patrol again.
Yeah, all right. They say that the average, it takes 2 years after you hire an officer before it starts paying off, that you start getting work out of them, because you have that first 2 years is filled with police academy, training, learning, probation, and the citizens don't really start getting what their money's worth until about 2 years in. Am I right, Steve? Is that about it? Was that
that's about it? That's what they say.
Yeah, about 2 years.
But Mark, when I was at the sheriff's department years ago, the sheriff said that his philosophy was that when somebody calls the 911 or whatever version we had back then, before 911 was in, when somebody calls the sheriff's department, they want to talk to a deputy. They don't want to talk to a civilian. So he had a policy. We had a little room. It was like a little submarine in the basement of the sheriff's department, and there was a long table with a bunch of telephones, and we had deputies answering when somebody called the sheriff's department 911. We would have to answer the phone and take the complaint on a piece of paper. We'd write down what they said, what their address was. Then we had another phone there. We pick up the other phone and would go up to the hill, and we'd give it to the complaint taker up in communications, and then she would give it to the dispatcher. They would dispatch a deputy, and it was nobody. It was like all the young guys. We wanted to be out on the street. We didn't want to be here answering phones. But because the sheriff said that was just his policy, was that he wanted deputies to answer the 911 calls. And so the board of supervisors one year is trying to save money after Prop 13. Remember the property tax, Prop 13? And so the board of supervisors are looking for efficiency. So they hire this company to come in to the sheriff's department and look for places to save money. And the first thing they say is, "This is ridiculous. Yeah. Get rid of this."
But that guy got elected sheriff as the political cronies and whatever politicians he or whatever.
Sounds like Steve.
I said, but we were telling that to the sheriff for years. This is dumb. Well, why are we answering this phone? It should go straight to the communications.
Right.
Steve came in just after smoke signals, huh?
Steve, did you go downtown in San Jose and have a little key to get on the phone?
Boxes.
No, but we didn't have the portable radios, on your belt. So we had to, when we went to calls like a family, family disturbance or whatever.
Can I use the phone?
The first thing we do is, can I use your phone? Because I have to, because they put you on a pink tag and they give you 90 seconds or a minute or 3 minutes or what, I forget how much time, but you only had so much time to notify them that you were code 4, that you were okay. And if you didn't, then they'd send somebody to check on you, and then that deputy would be pissed off because he'd be called out of a coffee shop because he had to go check on you because you didn't call in and tell communications you were code
Steve,
4.
Make sure you say hi to your niece. She texts hi to you.
Oh, so hi.
Say hi to your niece.
Hi.
Well, everything seems to be working okay now. I don't know what happened earlier with the audio. Sorry, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We are still figuring this out, but we appreciate it. And thanks for listening to us yammer on here. That's what we do now. We're retired. We can even drink and do this. We can even drink and do this. We're all retired. We don't answer to anyone but ourselves.
You think this is water, huh?
Yeah. But all right. Listen. Steve, anything we got to say about any of these people that have been arrested?
No, we just want to remind everybody, thank you for watching. And everybody you see on Fugitive Watch is to be considered innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. And if you recognize any of the fugitives that we may have featured, law enforcement may consider them to be extremely dangerous. So don't make any attempt to arrest, apprehend, or detain them. If you recognize any fugitives on our program, on our website, call 911, or you can send us a tip at via email at tips@fugitive.com.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Scott, Instagram, still the place, right?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for joining and come on over to Instagram. I try to stay on top of the most current news as I can, and I'm constantly calling Steve, but we have a lot of good conversations going on there. Love to have more people come on and join us in the conversations. So just keep it nice.
We got YouTube live going. We have Facebook now live going. So I'm hoping by next week we can then also stream out to Instagram. It's the same show. So we have a lot of followers on Instagram. It'd be nice to pick that up. But what we'll do is we'll cut some of these down into smaller segments. But we appreciate you watching. We do miss the old cable TV show economically, and I'm not even sure if that. I don't know. They still have. Does they still have leased access television?
I don't know, but you just. We also want to remind Mark that, like the kids say, smash that like button and subscribe. It's a subscribe, right? Yeah, and if you're interested,
whenever where you're at, Facebook,
YouTube,
and
if you're interested in being if you're interested in being a sponsor of Fugitive Watch, get a hold of us.
I'm still looking for that bar that we're all gonna film in.
Oh man, you really want to do this at a bar?
I really do. I think it'd be better. We could have people come in live,
drunk,
walking just. I was on your show back in '95, Of course you were.
I still get that. I'll save that for next time. I just recently got a phone call about that. Somebody who works with a family member goes, I was in the newspaper.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I miss the newspaper. That would be cool to be able to go to the car wash, pick up the newspaper. So
I miss the
now it's all about your phone, right? You gotta you just get on there.
People still want the newspaper, but COVID did us in, man.
Okay, guys. Thanks for checking out. Fugitive.com is the website, and you can find me at Stolen 911. I'm a private investigator. I kind of deal just mainly in theft stuff. I was going to tell you guys real quick that Mustang or that Camaro you saw, that girl in Vallejo, that's like a ZL1. Those things are stolen left and right. Scott, your Infinity, still in danger, buddy. You need Infinity theft. I'm doing a video on Stolen 911 on that next week. Infinities are going to be the next hot car all next year. They're going to be stolen. So if you have a Infinity 10 to 15 years old, that's a key fob vehicle, time to sell it or lock it up in the garage.
Mark, next show, let's if you don't mind, can you give us some tips on how to prevent your car from getting stolen, like recommendations on alarms or kill switches and air tags and things like that?
Yeah, I have a Tesla, and there's a PIN code I have to enter in to drive the car. So even if they did have my key or the key fob or the key card or my phone, they would still have to know the PIN number. So not something that's been hacked yet. Doesn't mean it won't. But, guys are hacking into all these key fob cars, all these GM vehicles, now these Infinities, which are Nissans. So if you have a vehicle like that, you're going to start seeing more and more of these thefts starting to occur. It's going to get really, really
interesting. What about the stick that goes across your
wheel? The club? I mean, they're all better than nothing, but
it slows people down.
Yeah, they're all better.
It slows the honest people down.
All right.
So,
hey, real quick, thank you to Tamika. We did see you there. You guys, Scott and Steve will go look at that. Tamika, Noreen, and V,
and Lily,
Carmen, our producer, Carmen. She's here watching everything. And
thank you, Carmen.
And the 3 people on YouTube appreciate it too. But we'll get it figured out. I guess, what do you guys like? Do you like us jumping around like this, or do you guys want us to pick just one topic and maybe stick on that? Like, we spent a lot of time on, Carmen's got thumbs up on the one topic thing. We spent a lot of time on just the United Healthcare shooter, and we had a good conversation there. And, this is where you get the perspective of 2 cops and a chippy, and see what they think about it, right? So, maybe that's the way to go. And then always, we can point you back to the website for all the stories you cover there. But Check it out, fugitive.com. Thanks, guys. See you next week, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we off camera? Are we off audio?
just carry a little cup there, man.